thegearnetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
This is the Listen In Podcast with your hosts, John Cimino and Brandon Gorell, here on the Gear Radio Network.
Hola, Happy New Year, everybody! Welcome to this edition of the Listen In Podcast here on the Gear Radio Network, the podcast, the videocast, wherever you might be. We thank you for tuning in or listening in to us. My name is John Cimino at IamJCMoney on Twitter, joined by my eyesore, the esteemed Mr. Brandon Gorell. Brandon, say hello. Okay, he's not saying hello. He's just pointing to the.
That was TV only.
That was TV only.
Giving you deuces.
The man who hooked it up with this sick WrestleMania shirt here that I modeled on New Year's. It was pretty awesome.
Actually, I picked that up. It was on sale for like $8. I was like, I can't pass that.
Hell yeah, it's awesome.
And then I went back 2 days later, and they had more new shirts, but they weren't on sale anymore. Wow. But one was a Wu-Tang one, and I was like, well, you know, what do you got to do?
Sometimes you just got to spoil yourself.
When in Rome.
All right, on today's show, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about, in a little more length, the Stephon Diggs versus Davante Adams thing that we had last podcast. And Brandon, the Adam Gase era of the New York Jets is finally gone. Mercifully, thank God, it is finally gone. And we can yuck up about that a little bit really quickly, though. Before we get into the topics, I just want to just share this here with our listeners and our viewers. Normally, this is right about the time where I tell everybody you can support the podcast by listening to the commercials or clicking on any of the links on GearNetwork.com, and I just did that basically, but. Really what I would like, if you wouldn't mind, is if you are a pro wrestling fan that has followed me here to this podcast and regularly listens and regularly supports, if you could do me a solid, prowrestlingtees.com/Brody Lee. My late great friend John Huber, a.k.a. Luke Harper, Brody Lee, unfortunately passed away day after Christmas a few weeks ago. His Pro Wrestling Tee site is still open and available. It has 9 shirts, 9 different shirts available right now. And if you purchase one of his T-shirts on prowrestlingtees.com/Brody Lee, 100% of the proceeds go to the Huber family. So you would be supporting his family, his wonderful wife, Amanda, his 8-year-old son, Brody, and his 3-year-old son, Nolan. They would greatly appreciate that. If you're not a Brody Lee fan, but you're a Mick Foley or CM Punk fan, Mick Foley and CM Punk have also committed for the month of January 100% of their T-shirts as well to go to the Huber family to support them. So that would be an awesome thing. And again, safe home, Huber. All right, moving on.
Just easy to do, and I can tell you with like if you go with the premium soft unisex, like I'm going with on the Brody Lee Sinister shirt, it comes with $28.98.
Not bad at all. I have ordered the armband, the little RIP Brody Lee armband that's coming. And then I also have a dog collar match shirt on the way because ironically enough, that was one of our last conversations took place right after the match. And it's a funny thing. I didn't mean to get into a Brody Lee story, but I guess I will here. No. The dog collar match that was done, it ended up being his final match with Cody Rhodes in AEW. The dog collar match in general, the original one, between Greg the Hammer Valentine and Roddy Piper back in 1983, I believe it was, 1983 Starrcade, is on my Mount Rushmore of one of my favorite matches, the dog collar match. Just they took this freaking collar, put them around their neck, and then they were linked by a chain, and then basically Roddy Piper and Greg Valentine beat the shit out of each other with it. And Brody Lee and Cody Rhodes did that in October for the TNT Championship at AEW. They did it justice, and I messaged my buddy Huber and told him, that he did it justice, and it was great. And then we kind of had fun at the expense of Greg the Hammer Valentine, but so it was that's a
He
shirt.
looked like every ninth grade gym teacher everyone ever
he
had.
still does. Greg Valentine does, though. He was in the audience for that match with between the two, and they were showing him, and they was like, oh, he was in the first dog contest. First of all, he still looks like he's 60 or 70 years old. He's always looked old. Greg Valentine has. And I also I hear from multiple people he's a genuine piece of shit, but that's that's not my
when you look like an old gym teacher. I mean,
but he always did, though, even back in the 80s. Yeah. He looked like that. He looks like he's always been 68 years old to me. Greg the Hammer Valentine does, but I guess he still wrestles independently, whatever. But again, ProWrestlingTees.com/Brody Lee, and I thank you. All right, Brandon. What the hell, man? Happy New Year. How in the hell the holidays? How the hell were the holidays for you, man?
They were good. Low key. Kids had a good Christmas. Had a low key New Year's. Grace had a friend over. I just had, Sean too, and so it was just the four of us tipping some sparkling grape juice at the New Year and watching A-Rod stiffly dance in a mask to J-Lo singing up there. And
that was on
awkward.
That was on Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve. Yeah. And I watch that every year. I've always watched it.
Right.
And it's still not the same without Dick Clark, damn it.
No.
It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, low key party over here as well. Me, the girls, and some friends, and had a few pops, had some festive stuff in here. And
I was in between, like, whether I was gonna let the kids sleep over, or if I was gonna have to drive her home. And I was like, man, if I drink, it's a guaranteed done deal.
Yeah.
And then as 12 o'clock approached, I was like starting to feel tired, and I was like, man, I should have just had a drink. Because I ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
As soon as that 12 o'clock hit, I used to be like, all right, from 12 o'clock on, I'm not drinking for the next 2.5 hours, and then I'm going home. So I'm good. I pace myself because I'm always out on New Year's Eve. I'm either at my cousin Justin's or at Mikey's. It rotates every other year. This is the first year we're not doing it. So, I was like, should I have one? And I was like, nah, it's just me here. Seems kind of weird. And if it was just the two kids and me, I'd already bought the ginger beer. I got some new lime. I had some Tito's still left. Yeah, I was going to make some Moscow mules, and I was just going to, watch the train wrecks like Cyndi Lauper.
When are the Packers playing? Are they Sunday?
No, man, they got the bye, man.
Oh, that's right. They do have the bye.
Them and the Chiefs.
The whole damn thing is throwing me off, man. I can't lie.
No Packers this weekend.
I was going to invite myself over to your house and
no football for me, sir.
And have you make the mules, because I haven't had one of those in a while.
Yeah. You can still come over. Really, you can still come over for the game with the kids, and they can come and hang out and make mules, anyways.
Yeah,
Buffalo wing dip.
I have to be Sunday.
Sure, Haley will be there.
Saturday, I'm finishing out of the old Gear Network studio. The old Gear Network studio. Yeah. Now it's gonna just be it's gonna be amazing. But all right.
Johnny's jerk off palace.
It's already. I mean, in fairness, it's already kind of that. But
it's gonna be vintage porn down there.
No, torture porn. Jets games.
It's gonna be Brute Fabergé.
All right, sticking to sports, Brandon. Last podcast, we had I would say a developing, possible and animated discussion when we were talking about the best wide receivers in the NFL, and we had brought up Stephon Diggs versus Davante Adams, and I was going to post the poll on social media to engage the users and the listeners and all that stuff to have them weigh their opinions on it. And then I found out I was in Facebook jail, so I couldn't really do that. I had to limit it to Twitter. But when I posted it on Twitter, I left it up for a week, and the Twitter universe said Davante Adams is the better of the two.
It's because they're correct.
So here is their 2020 stats, and you all see. I will report, and you all can decide there.
Before you put that number out there, disclaimer number 1: games played 16 to 13.5.
Kimosabe. Hold, please. I was going to mention that. 2020 stats. Devontae
Most people are not.
100, as Brandon mentioned, 13.5 games played. In 13.5 games played for Devontae Adams, 115 receptions, 1,374 yards, 18 touchdowns. So good in 13.5 games that EA Sports bumped his ass up to a 99 in Madden 21.
He did join the club.
Yeah. So Stephon Diggs, can't knock him. These are still good numbers, but 100 in 16 games played. He played all 16. 127 receptions, 1,535 yards, 8 touchdowns.
Yeah.
In Madden 21, he's a 96.
I also want to point out too, when you look at some of the other advanced stats, you got a 12.1 average for Diggs and 11.9. So everyone thinks that Diggs is a super home run threat. Big plays, which are 20 yards plus. Stephon Diggs had 20, Adams had 18. First downs, 73 for Diggs, 73 for Adams. Yards after catch, 468 for Diggs, 592 for Adams. He's just in 13.5 games, and there's been games too where the second half has been kind of like a moot point. We just start handing the ball off and just trying to run out the clock because we're up 26, at the half. So to put that into perspective, and one thing that I didn't mention the last time was, I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. I know I sent it to you. But there's this coach that broke down game film of Devontae Adams and his technique with his footwork and how he uses his feet to get open. A lot of guys hand fight, they push off at the point of release to get their separation. Adams uses his feet. And there is a famous former receiver who gave himself a Hall of Fame jacket. I'm referring to Mr. Chad Ochocinco, that actually reviewed that film and was reduced to tears by how beautiful his footwork is, because that is something that Johnson always prided himself on, was his footwork. Right. He may not have been the fastest, he may not have been the tallest or the strongest receiver, but his footwork was what got him open. From
others. His footwork made him a wide receiver 1 for a brief period of time.
And it wasn't even just before the break. It's after he gets the ball too. The moves he puts on defensive backs when he gets in space is just ridiculous. A lot of people are like, well, he's got Aaron Rodgers thrown to him. Well, the year that Aaron Rodgers got hurt and missed most of the season with the broken collarbone, we still had Jordy Nelson and we had Brett Hundley playing quarterback. Devontae Adams still led the league in touchdowns when Brett Hundley was throwing to him. Adams' numbers went nowhere. Nelson went in the toilet. And that was kind of the beginning and the end of Nelson, because the Packers were like, okay, this guy's expendable, because if we don't have Rodgers, he's not doing anything for us. He was pretty much dead weight. He was getting up there in age. It was like, okay, off to Raiders land with you. Adams, it just doesn't seem to matter who's throwing the ball to him. He's good. Stephon Diggs, I think, is the opposite case. I think Stephon Diggs is a good receiver. He's a great receiver. And I think he helped out Josh Allen immensely this season.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've been making that very point for a number of weeks on Trust the Podcast. I've been making that very point that Diggs was the difference maker for Buffalo.
Yeah, 100%. And here's the difference between the two. Diggs is a difference maker because he helped improve a quarterback. Adams is a difference maker because he makes game-breaking plays and he's super reliable in the red zone. He is going to get a touchdown. If he's in there and that ball's his way, 99.9% of the time he's coming down with it. If Adams goes out, Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. We saw it against New Orleans. Adams got hurt in that Detroit game, came out like second quarter, with the injured turf toe. We played the Saints the next week, Sunday Night Football in New Orleans. New Orleans was already off to a good start. They had beat Tampa. They were on a roll, ready to go. Next up was Green Bay. Green Bay, we didn't draft anybody in the offseason, and this is exactly what we needed for, because now that Adams is out, Aaron Rodgers has got no one to throw to. And then he just lit up the Saints with Allen Lazard, Robert Tonyan, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a smooth transition into where I was going with this. Because with those aforementioned wide receiver stats, the Bills and Packers each finished 13-3, winners of their respective divisions. Obviously, Green Bay number 1 overall in the NFC. Buffalo ended up getting
because they play a cupcake schedule.
There we go. And with that, Bills fans are believing
the worst.
That not only is
New York right
Stephon Diggs better than Davante Adams, but quarterback Josh Allen should actually edge out Aaron Rodgers for the MVP, the league MVP.
Not only Aaron Rodgers versus Allen.
Hold on, Brandon. I've got everything here. Pat Mahomes too, but they want Josh Allen above them,
right?
Both. We're just going Rodgers versus Allen here, because this hits home with you. Rodgers 2020 stats: he had a 70.7% completion percentage all season, with 4,299 yards, 48 touchdowns through the air, 51 total if you include the rushing, and 5 interceptions. Josh Allen was 69.2% completion percentage, not bad at all. 4,544 yards, 37 passing touchdowns, 45 total with his rushing touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. So, Brandon, I turn the floor over to you, good sir. Do Bills fans have an argument that Josh Allen should be the MVP over Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers?
No. They can argue it all day. The reason that they're arguing it so strongly is for 2 reasons. One, because they're like one of the worst homer fan bases in the world. They are super homers. Like, they get 2 wins in a season and they think, here we go. We're circling the wagons. We're going to the Super Bowl. Every year it's the same damn thing. This year they're actually having a number that matches their mouth. They're 13-3. But they're seeing what
number that matches their mouth. I like that. Yeah. I like that. I like that. Well done, sir.
Tom Brady has been just dominating that division for so many years. He's done it in so many different ways. He's done it where he just was kind of a system quarterback in the beginning, where you let the defense kind of run and he just would, don't lose the game. Then he transitioned into hey, I'm actually a really good quarterback and I can carry this team without a defense. We just have to have a mediocre defense, but I can provide on offense, especially when they grabbed Randy Moss. That Tom Brady was there. And then they transitioned into the third act of Tom Brady, which was the Tom Brady who had to be savvy, who didn't have the big weapons, but didn't have the same skill set and youth that he had in that middle part of his career, but he still found ways to win. Bills fans are, for the first time, even though they've had Allen the last 2 years, they're actually seeing what a competent quarterback does. And they see it and they think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Because typically, not all, but a lot of Bills fans only watch Buffalo Bills football. They catch the highlights, they check the box scores of other games, but they watch Bills games and games that pertain to Buffalo and their either playoff chances or positioning. That is what Bills fan does.
You are absolutely not incorrect with that assessment.
So when they go and they look and they
This
say,
is why, Brandon, I'm sorry. I'm the selfish prick. This is exactly why I did this. You are doing everything. You are taking.
I mean, every one of these homers are also going to look and go, oh, you're a homer. Now, I watch all games every Sunday. Like, I'm clicking around all the time. Yeah, I watch Green Bay exclusively when they're playing, but I still keep an eye on the other games. I watch, the rewind where you get the game basically without all the bullshit in between. And you can watch the whole entire NFL game in like 40 minutes. I watch that stuff. I watch, film breakdowns. I see those. I follow a person on Twitter that does film breakdowns of, players each week. So I pay attention. I don't just watch Green Bay. I watch Buffalo. I like Buffalo. I want Buffalo to do well. But every time I want Buffalo to do well, their fans make it so hard to root for them. So when they look at their guy and he's lower in completion percentage, he's higher in yardage, great, but he's less in average per or completion. He's ahead by a little in yards per game, but that comes with the whole, he has more yardage. But Rodgers did it on like 25 less completions and also like 50 less attempts.
Right.
He's got 48 touchdowns to 37 for Allen, and they go, what about those rushing yards? Great. You look back, and the thing that they keep making in the argument is Cam Newton, when he won MVP with his combined rushing touchdowns and passing touchdowns, and then the Lamar Jackson passing and rushing touchdown combination, they were both MVPs. What they don't mention is that those totals led the league. Right. The difference here is Rodgers, if you add rushing and passing touchdowns, Rodgers still has 51 touchdowns because he has 3 rushing and 48 passing, right, where Allen has 37 plus his 10 rushing. That's 47. That's still less than Rodgers. And then you look at the turnover game. Allen threw 10 interceptions, which is twice as many as Rodgers threw. He's been sacked less. Allen was sacked 26 times this year, even though he runs a lot and can escape more than Rodgers is. Rodgers is older. Rodgers only got sacked 20 times. Your QBR, Rodgers, 84.4, led the league. QB rating, again, top 3 rating of passers in NFL history, Rodgers. He's in there again with 121.5. That's absurd numbers. So you want to forgive all that. You want to forget all that and give it to a guy because he improved really strongly over the previous season, had a really excellent season, and he should be MVP because we say so, because we played a harder schedule. Nobody gives a shit about that.
Right.
MVP voters look at stats.
Right.
They look at impact on games. That's what they look at. LeBron James, all those years in the East, what was the moniker every time? Oh, he plays in the easy East, and he just, coasts through to the NBA Finals while the West is just this huge dogfight because it's so much stronger. But LeBron won MVP every one of those years because his numbers were better.
Right,
he had a greater impact as a league MVP.
Right.
Josh Allen is team MVP.
Oh, he's team MVP, absolutely.
He's AFC East MVP. But I don't think he's better than Mahomes. Mahomes played one less game than him, and the only thing that Allen can claim on him is the touchdowns with his rushing touchdowns. Right. Mahomes still threw 38 touchdowns, which was more than Allen threw, and he threw 6 interceptions in one less game. He threw for more yards than Allen did. So you can't really say, Mahomes threw for 316 yards a game.
I think to your point about, they Bills fans watching just Bills football and studying Bills football and being well versed in Bills football. That's that I had mentioned.
They're experts in Bills football.
I had mentioned this to Ryan a few weeks ago on Trust the Podcast, but when I personally talk about Bills fans and rag on Bills fans, the specific type of fan, Bills fan, that I belittle, I suppose, is a very, very small portion of the entire Bills Mafia. So I don't want Bills fans that are listening to this to think that we hate the Bills entirely or we hate the Bills fans or whatever. I do care for the Bills very much, being a Western New Yorker. Longtime fans like my Uncle Tim or Mr. Paul, that have seen the bad, the good, the really good, the bad, the really bad, and now the good again. I'm sympathetic to the Bills for those guys, not the people that grew, were born in 1998, 99, 2000, 2001, that all they've known is a generation of terrible Bills football. So then they see the first signs of competency. Mm-hmm. It's, to your point, Brandon, it's so new to them that it's like, well, we got to be the MVP and we got to be this. But what I'm finding with these jamokes is that they're still operating on some sort of league is going to fuck with them in the postseason now, kind of conspiratorial things.
Yeah.
That for the life of me, I have never been able to understand. The
whole world's got it out for Buffalo.
The whole world has it out for. They're 13-3, and then I saw a post was forwarded to me today from a proud member of the Bills Mafia, but it said, this is the moment that Bills fans are waiting for. So guess what's going to happen? Frank Reich coming in to and I'm like, what does that have to do with anything?
Boy.
Well, you know what he does to teams in the playoffs.
Warren Moon's going to come and rub the game balls up.
I swear to God, if the Bills end up winning the Super Bowl, what the hell are they going to complain about?
Yeah.
What could they say? Part of me wants the Bills to win Super Bowl just so they'll shut up with this conspiratorial crap about them.
I'm not ready for them yet.
No, I don't know. But
all right, 13-3. They look really good. I don't care what their schedule looked like. I mean, they beat 2 division champions. I mean, that's what Buffalo did too.
Lost props in all of that. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur, 13-3 in his first 2 seasons. Yeah. That is pretty good.
It's pretty good for a guy who, really wasn't that flashy of a hire, and who was, supposedly not going to be able to coach Aaron Rodgers because Aaron was too bristly and he's too tough, and LaFleur's too nice of a guy, and there's no way those two are going to get along. And you see it. You watch every game. Like, I watch every game, so I see all this stuff. A lot of people don't see it, but when Rodgers will hit a big play, and it'll be for a touchdown, the first person he's looking over at is Matt LaFleur, and he's pointing at him, and he's smiling, and he's like, we got that one. Like, LaFleur he's found Rodgers' sweet spot. He's gotten the right balance for that team. He knows the temperature on, like, okay, how's this game going? What do we need here? What should we be doing in this situation? We've had one stinker game this year. The stinker game we had was against Tampa Bay. They were up 10-0 to start the game, and then it just all fell apart. The interception, then the other interception right on the next drive, and just the wheels fell apart because, we're used to having a smooth machine that goes and says, okay, we're going to score, we're going to get on time, we're going to be on time. And if the defense gives up, that's okay because we're right on time. We're right on schedule. They stay on schedule every drive. And when that kind of got broken this time, where they actually jumped out to a lead, and then all of a sudden, within a blink, they were behind, I think it threw them off. They didn't really know how to react. It's something you learn. Mm-hmm. And they learned because they have had games where they've been neck and neck with somebody, and then somebody would take the lead on them, and then they'd come back on it. And then they have their other games where they just kind of lead wire to wire. He's a really good coach, and he's not going to get the credit that he probably deserves. And he's not going to get the votes for coach of the year because people are going to look and say, well, you got Aaron Rodgers. Right. Like, it's easy to be a coach when you're Aaron Rodgers. We're like, well, no, it's not, because Mike McCarthy proved it. Like, he had Brett Favre, resurrected his career, got to the championship game. He went away. Rodgers took over, started off real strong. And then it kind of like, year by year dissipated. And now he's coaching the Dallas Cowboys, and Dallas Cowboy fans already want him gone.
Right.
They can't. As much as I disliked the ending with McCarthy, going in 1 year and then losing your franchise quarterback in like week 3 for the season and having to go with Andy Dalton, and then have him get hurt too, and have to go with like just street bums to say that guy should be fired is kind of nonsensical.
Well, all right. So we'll expand a little more on the coaching talk here because, but I want to put up this. Not put it up because
we got some shit cannings to talk about.
Matt LaFleur, 26-6.
Yeah.
As a head coach in his first 2 years.
NFC Championship game the first year.
We will go to a commercial break, and when we come back, in that same entire span, a head coach went 9-23, and he got fired for it. We'll talk about that when we come back on the Listen In podcast. Stick around.
What's up, Rock Soldiers? This is Robbie Vegas coming at you from the All Bets Are Off podcast. If you are into horror movies, the paranormal, professional wrestling, or music, this is the place for you. We're bringing you the latest and greatest interviews in all of the above: music, horror, and of course, professional wrestling. So tune in on the Gear Network. Check out All Bets Are Off. Rate us, like us, subscribe to us, leave us your comments, tell us what you think. And we'll catch you soon on the All Bets Are Off podcast, dropping every Sunday at noon.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Listen In podcast. Johnson here, Ryan Gorell there. And Brandon, as we were heading out to break, I had mentioned Mr. Matt LaFleur, your boy over there in Green Bay.
LaFleur.
He is LaFleur. That's right.
Matt LaFleur.
Whatever. I don't know. I may have had more than one of these. I just won't.
It is late in the evening too, man.
I won't kick any chairs this time. I promise. But Matt LaFleur, 26-6 in 2 years as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Adam Gase in that same time frame, Brandon.
It's a good coach.
9-23, including losing the first 13 games of this campaign. He's mercifully been let go from the New York Jets. Thank God.
Mercifully for all of you. Like, for him, it's a bummer.
I mean, yeah, I don't advocate for somebody losing their job, and I feel.
But when you don't do it well,
but that was a job he should not have been given in the first place. So,
I mean, listen, if you have a differential of -214, probably shouldn't be a coach anymore.
No. But I hear that the rumors for him, Adam Gase's future has been linked to two places: New England working with Bill Belichick.
Oh no!
Or Alabama working with Saban as his OC.
Alabama, I could see, because Saban doesn't take anybody's shit. And if he goes down there and starts to suck, you're out. Yeah, he doesn't mess around.
Ask Lane Kiffin how that worked out.
He rehabilitated Lane Kiffin's career. Like,
didn't he also leave him off the team bus?
Yeah, because he fucked up in a personal way. It wasn't to do with the team. It wasn't his performance. It was other shit. But I mean, Sarkisian was fucking drunk and kicked out of the USC program, and now he's their offensive coordinator, and now he just got the UT job. He's Texas's head coach.
Well, for him, maybe it'll work out.
Maybe he'll learn a thing, because Nick Saban's a machine in Alabama.
Now this brings an interesting dynamic to the whole draft thing. And I don't know if this is a media spin or anything like that, but Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, these have been the two quarterbacks that they've been talking about all season, but they've I don't want to say oversold Trevor Lawrence, because he's a good quarterback. But they've put Trevor Lawrence up here, and they've described Justin Fields as being a sizable gap away. Like, it wasn't like the draft of where there was Baker, there was Allen, there was Lamar, there was Darnold, there was whomever. where it was like, 3 or 4 of these guys can go 1, 2, 3, 4. And they've talked about that there's a big sizable gap between Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields that might have been erased a little bit this past week.
Nah, not one game.
But
no,
I am not 100% sold as a Jets fan that Justin Fields is better immediately than Sam Darnold is now. I think the Jets have done Sam Darnold incredibly wrong. And I'm kind of sad knowing that he may not be back because to get his, to really get his shot there with somebody that hopefully would be competent that they bring in. Because I know he's got enough talent that if he goes to another team that actually
play well,
he's going to light it up.
Yeah.
So
I don't go to New England, and I'm telling you, like, he goes to New England, it's curtains. The AFC East is going to be contentious again.
If he goes to New England, I think I'm done as a Jets fan.
Yeah, it would hurt.
It would hurt real bad.
To go back to your Fields and Lawrence, I still think that Lawrence is the better player.
Oh, I agree. I agree absolutely.
And I think it's still a sizable gap. People want to make the Justin Fields like, he had a great game against Clemson head to head, but you got to look at it at the same time and go, well, Clemson's defense absolutely shit the bed. I mean, they were awful, like historically awful. Like they were worse than Notre Dame awful. That's how bad they were, because a lot of the touchdowns that Fields threw, nobody was even covered. Like there was like 3 to 5 yards of separation when he's just laying the ball in there. I mean, they had a tight end who hadn't caught a touchdown all season, goes out and catches 2. He should have had 3. It was one was called back on a penalty. It wasn't even close. But if you look at the game, Lawrence still threw for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. He still put up 28 points.
Lawrence was 30.
They allowed 49 fucking points.
Right. 33.
Everyone wants to say Notre Dame didn't belong there. Like, Get the fuck out of here.
33 of 48 for 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception for Trevor Lawrence versus 22 of 28, 385 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception for Justin Fields. I mean, but they also had Ohio State did, I should say, a very solid running game.
Right. To go with it.
When Trey Sermon
ETN did nothing for Clemson.
Yeah. 31 carries, 193 yards for Sermon.
Right.
I mean,
their defense sucked. And that's what pissed me off. Like, so we have the debate where Ohio State probably doesn't belong because they only played 6 games. And they go out there and they fucking pasted Clemson. The game was not as close as 49-28. It felt like it was 65-0. It was embarrassing. Like they couldn't stop a nosebleed with a towel. And then you look at the Notre Dame game, they lost 31-14 and everyone's like, "Oh, yeah, they suck. They don't belong there." Dude, Notre Dame has a completely different program than Alabama does. Alabama every year churns out first-round draft picks that make it in the NFL every single fucking year. They didn't go out there and lose to Suck State. They didn't go like a Oklahoma losing to Boise State, like a nobody that got there that maybe shouldn't have been there but got there because they had a high record or whatever, and they just couldn't leave them out, and it was a surprise. Like Alabama is Alabama. Alabama averaged 49.7 points a game. They're just a hair off of 50 points. They're like a missed extra point here or there during the season from averaging 50 points a game. They had a run of 42 straight games where they scored 35 or more. And Notre Dame held them to 31. They lost 31-14. You see a 17-point gap. But if you actually watch the game instead of the jerk-offs who sat home and played their Xbox or their PlayStation that night and then saw the final score and go, see, they got molly-whipped. I knew it. They don't belong there. They didn't watch the fucking game. because it was 21-7 at the half. Should have been 21-10. Field goal kicker completely flubbed that fucking kick as Book got him in the position. Then they got the stop at the beginning of the quarter, in the third quarter, to get the ball back, still at 21-7. Ian Book moves him down the field. He's moving him, and then inexplicably, instead of throwing the ball away, he just kind of floats one, and it gets fucking intercepted. Alabama scores right there. It's all of a sudden it's 28-7. You went from almost being 21-14. They were moving on them to being 28-7 in a heartbeat. But they still didn't cave. They go in, they almost score another touchdown, and they turn it over on downs because all of a sudden Brian Kelly forgets how to fucking call plays.
Right.
So
I will say,
look at that game and go, okay, they don't belong. But then you go and you watch the Clemson game and they get absolutely their doors blown off. But you're going to say, oh, well, Notre Dame doesn't belong. Well, Notre Dame played a good game. They just didn't have the talent to match up.
I will say, just
outside,
looking at it visually and seeing it on the screen, it really looked like Alabama looked like a freaking NFL team.
They did.
They were size of their people. That
they showed the one lineman. He was 6'3", 350 or 6'6", 315 pounds. In college.
I mean, when I see Derrick Henry now, kind of see I remember Derrick Henry then, and was like, damn, this dude's big.
Well, remember when Notre Dame got blown out in that national title game?
Yep.
They won the playoff game, and then they went to the national title, and they got blown out by Alabama. Eddie Lacy was their running back.
Yep.
And they couldn't stop him.
Right.
He was just too big. He was just running people over in that game.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big guy, and look what he did in Green Bay when he started out there.
Yep.
Alabama every year has big ass players, but they're big and they're fast.
Must be some good food down there or something.
It's not even in there. Alabama and Ohio State do the best job at developing players because it's not just, they have star quarterbacks or they have stars everywhere.
Right.
Their offensive lines are always solid. Their defensive lines are always solid. I mean, look at Ohio State. You got Bosa. The Bosa brothers came out of Ohio State. Chase Young, who's going to be the defensive rookie of the year this year, out of Ohio State. You look at the Alabama receivers, CeeDee Lamb, these guys, Jerry Jeudy, those guys came out of Alabama. And, even Tua, I still not 100% sold that he's a bust. I watched that game against Buffalo and I listened to them say that they, talked to Chan Gailey and he has two sets of plays. He has one offense for Tua and he has one for Fitzpatrick because he's trying to build for their success for their strong points. He puts a little chastity belt on Tua. Tua throws 3-4 yards down the field every down.
Right.
With this read option fake bullshit. They know he's not going to run because his hips, he doesn't want to get hit. They don't want your franchise quarterback run out there. So everybody, I watched Buffalo, press coverage. And Tua's got 3 yards, and they're getting tackled immediately. There's nothing because everybody's right on top of them because there's no threat of the downfield throw. I think if they get a coordinator in there that can work that offense, they get some outside receivers for him, then I think he could, still be a potentially good quarterback.
I think it would be unfair to judge Tua right now after one season, and the reason I say this is because
Josh Allen sucked his first season.
It's not even to compare it to Allen or
he didn't have the talent around him.
Right, but hear me out. Tua went through a hip surgery, that hip surgery there. They weren't sure he was going to play again at one point. They weren't sure
played this season
if he was going to play at all this season. He went through that. Then COVID hits. He gets drafted by Miami, but can't have in-person workings.
No,
can't have it didn't have preseason games, and kind of got thrown to the wolves for some random reason in week 4 or 5.
I have no idea. Brian Flores, I like him. I think he's a great head coach. I think he knows how to get those guys to play for him. I still cannot fathom why they were winning games. I mean, at that point, they were 1-2. but they were close in every game. They lost to the Bills by a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to the Seahawks by a touchdown.
Game that I bet they wish they had back.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick goes out. He wins the next game against the 49ers. Then he goes out and wins the next game against the Jets. And all of a sudden, they're 3-3. And then they're like, all right, we got something going here. And then they're like, let's get Tua to play. Well, wait, what?
Yeah, that
Like,
was
you won 3 or last 4 games, and you won them handily. I mean, Fitzpatrick's number against the Jets, 191, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. 2 picks, not great. Okay, 49ers, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns. The game before it that he lost to the Seahawks, 315 yards, had the 2 picks, but they lost by a touchdown. The game before that against Buffalo. Well, no, they won against the Jaguars before that, but everyone won against the Jaguars. You go to the Buffalo game where they lost by a field goal, 328 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he was playing inept at quarterback.
Right.
He wasn't a turnover machine. Like, they were winning. They were 3-3. And they're like, let me bring him in. And then Tua gets a win based off of his defense against the Rams because Jared Goff in that game forgets he knows how to play quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they win that game. Tua in that game against the Rams that they won, 93 yards and a touchdown passing on 12 of 22 passing.
Yeah.
And then you go to the next game, which was against the Cardinals. They eked it out 1-3, had a pretty decent game, 248 for 2 touchdowns. But then you go to the next game and he regresses again. They won, but he threw for 169 yards. And then all of a sudden the wheels fell off. So they thought, oh, we made a good decision. You didn't. Because
right.
Once he gets figured out, he's got no way to adjust. Like, and then all of a sudden they were like, we don't want to hurt this guy. We don't want to do it. They lost to the fucking Broncos.
He did. I'm very curious to see how a full off season now
they got pulled
will help, but also too with Gailey retiring again.
Yeah, thank God.
You know,
if you're a Dolphins
he's gonna have to learn. He's gonna have to learn a new one. And the Dolphins, as a 10-win team, pick 3rd overall.
He showed the flashes, like the game against Kansas City that he let him back in, and he had 2 touchdowns and a pick and 316 yards. He showed moments. But then there was other moments where it was like, you know, the Raiders game. He absolutely laid an egg in that game. Mm-hmm. I mean, Fitzpatrick played like less than a quarter and dwarfed his production for 3+ quarters and won him the game. It sucked that he ended up with COVID because who knows what would have happened against Buffalo, because maybe he keeps it close and they pull out Allen at halftime. Well, and they pull that game out and then they go to the playoffs. Who knows?
It's hard to say because I don't want to say he might not have turned it over as much as Tua did because it's still Ryan Fitzpatrick.
It's not the turnovers though. It was the dink and dunk shit.
Right.
Like he was just
right. It was the dink and dunk. It's the dink and dunk shit with Tua, and
it was like
Fitzy's a gunslinger. So yes, they would have moved a lot more. The game would have been radically different. I think
it would have been a lot different.
And I feel bad because Fitz was this close to finally making a playoff team. And
he should just come be our backup for a while.
He should. Well, no, don't wish that. Because every time he's a backup somewhere, the starter gets injured. Fitzmagic.
Not always. I mean, he took over for Winston just because Winston sucked.
That could be true.
That's not all the Fitzmagic, injury bug thing, but we'll make him 3rd string so he's not on deck.
All right, that's fair. So, all right, well, with that, we've gone through 3 parts of the podcast here, so you know what that means.
Part 4, hoops
cards, baby. Here we go.
Yes.
Let's get us started here. Yep. We're looking for Mark.
I just want to see that face.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna get cans of beer and I'm doing a Stone Cold celebration, and then I'm gonna ask to borrow your carpet cleaner.
And then you're gonna find like no buyers for it.
Glenn Rivers.
Oh, Glenn Doc Rivers.
Yeah. Good old Doc Rivers. Brad Doherty.
All right, I remember Brad Doherty.
I remember him too. Patrick Ewing.
Oh, I had his sneakers one year.
Did
I
you?
played basketball. Yeah, they were my basketball.
Were
kicks.
were those the Spaldings?
No, they were their
Who
own
had
brand.
Spaldings? Was that Olajuwon, I think?
I think Olajuwon might have.
One of them had Payless brand shoes, and
Yeah, it wasn't Ewing. I got Ewings from like a sneaker store. They were black, and they had the white strap over the front of them that said Ewing, and they had the 33s on the Velcro, and I had the big orange basketball on the tongue. That was the one year I didn't have Jordans.
I was the highest I went. I had a pair of Barclays.
Yeah, I had Jordans for a few years because I played basketball. My dad would get me, but they would be my everything sneakers.
Right.
Yeah. We took the bus down to Midtown so that I could get Jordans because my dad worked overtime for me. And I wore those things till the fucking bottoms were flopping off of them.
Oh, I bet. Those are good shoes, though. Damn expensive as hell, though. Derek Harper.
Okay.
Here, from your favorite part of the series, the coach cards, Bob Weiss, Brandon.
Oh. Not a good coach.
Lafayette Lever.
All right.
This is all-star card, so apparently he was something for a year. Daryl Griffith. I'm getting. Oh, here we go. Let's see. We got Benoit Benjamin and Wes Unseld.
Oh, Wes.
You remember him?
The old head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Big old afro. He was a good basketball player, though.
Danny Ainge returns to the podcast.
Danny Ainge as a Kings.
Yep.
player.
Daniel, and they put the middle names in there. It's good. Yeah, Daniel Ray Ainge.
He had range.
You got Kenny Gaddison. I believe this one is a duplicate.
Oops.
Isaiah Thomas, All-Star card. Pretty sure that is. And then we've got nothing big here. Well, one of your old boys, Chris Ford.
Yeah. He took over after Casey Jones retired, I think.
Mm-hmm. Gary Grant and Orlando Woolridge.
Oh, man, Woolridge. Fuck that guy.
Got those. That is the first pack. And now
battled with Parrish.
We'll take. You know what? One more.
Got 11 right now.
One more quick commercial break. We'll come back, and then we'll do the second pack here on Listen in the Podcast. Stick around. Back finally to finish this off here. Second pack, Brandon. Here we go. Let's see.
Here we
go.
go
ahead. Get these out of here. Come on, Mark Jackson. We are waiting for you. It's bad when I can tell with the duplicates here. I think I might just start filtering through them here. Ricky Spears, Sam Bowie, Kevin Johnson. These are all duplicates. I remember those. LaSalle Thompson.
All right.
I don't think this one is though. Dennis Rodman. The Dennis Rodman All-Star.
Oh, All-Star guy. Yeah.
And look at him. I mean, no haircut. No
Pistons.
Yep. No hair color. No nothing. He was just straight up Dennis.
No piercings.
No hanging out with Hulk Hogan.
No Madonna.
The NWO.
Carmen Electra.
Nick Anderson. That's a duplicate. I remember him.
I remember Nick Anderson. He was a good ball player.
Ralph Sampson.
Let me talk to Sampson.
I like though. Look at the Kings uniform that they used in here.
I love the baby blues.
That's a throwback.
I think they're doing them this year.
Are they?
Yeah, I think they've had some games.
That's a throwback to their old Royals.
Yeah,
Rochester Royals when they were here. I like those. Let's see. I've got.
There's a wire.
All right, this was a bad pack, Brandon. Nate McMillan, Jeff Malone, Craig Hodges, James Worthy All-Star card. Those are all duplicates. Roy Hinson of the New Jersey Nets at that time. Caldwell Jones of the Spurs, and a duplicate of your boy Brandon, AC Green. All right.
The guy who was a virgin.
Yeah, he was a virgin for God knows how long.
Yeah.
Might still be one. Who knows? I have no idea.
Let me look here. Let me look.
You're going to look if AC Green's still a virgin?
No. I'm looking at the Sacramento Kings
Make
jerseys.
that your headlines next week, Brandon. Is AC Green still a virgin? The answer next week. But, all right. That's going to, I think that's going to do it. Brandon, you got anything else for the podcast listening audience?
We didn't really touch on all the firings of
I own the network, bro. Let's go.
Oh, there was a couple that were kind of head scratchers. Like, well, there was one there's one that's a head scratcher, and then there's two that still have jobs that, like, it's not comparable. So, like,
Who's
Doug
the head
Marone.
scratcher?
Doug Marone was a definite, like, he was like Adam Gase territory. Dead man walking. Thanks for getting us the number 1 pick, Doug. Thanks for the memories. See you later. The head scratcher was Anthony Lynn.
Yes.
Again, I know people get tired of this narrative and they get tired of bringing race into things. And again, we've got why Stephen A is okay, because we got to get a black man to come in and talk about why a black man got fired. Anthony Lynn was 33-31 in his 4 seasons as coach. He had an aging Rivers. He had a young team who was starting to, like, round in. So they had a mix of, like, guys who were Rivers guys who were, like, you know, still playing like Keenan Allen. But they let Melvin Gordon go, who was their top guy. But there was a holdout before that. You know, they had Bosa out for a while when they first drafted him, so they didn't get him right away. Then Rivers leaves after last season. They go into the season with Tyrod Taylor as their quarterback. They draft Justin Herbert because they know Tyrod's not the answer. He's a bridge guy right now. The accident happens where he injects too far with the injection for his bruised ribs and ends up puncturing his lung.
Right.
And, like, bring on Justin Herbert.
Right.
Justin Herbert comes in and amazes right out of the gate and never looks back. He's their quarterback. Right. They lost some of the most heartbreaking, tough games of the season. People were like, well, he made a decision here, he made a decision there. I get that. Mm-hmm. But players still play.
Right.
And the fact is that the first game that Justin Herbert played was against Pat Mahomes, and he goes out there and almost beats him. Mm-hmm. Mahomes had to win in overtime and had to have a last-second field goal drive to tie that game. I mean, they were less than 2 minutes away from beating the Chiefs, the Super Bowl champs, with a rookie quarterback week 2 of the season.
Right.
They lost to the Panthers on a last-second issue where they just couldn't get in the end zone. And they died on the 2-yard line. They had three turnovers in that game. Okay? Then they lose to the Bucs by a touchdown. Another game where they had the game-winning TD and it got called back for a penalty. So they had the Bucs on the ropes. The Saints, they lost to by a field goal on the same situation. They were tied late, or they were winning late, get the touchdown, 50 seconds left, Taysom Hill runs it in, tie game, goes overtime, don't do anything in overtime, Will Lutz field goal, ball game, Saints win. And then, by the way, the teams I'm mentioning outside of the Panthers, all high-ranked playoff teams. Mm-hmm. You have the Chiefs, who had one loss. We're going to call it one loss because they gave up.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody played.
Week 17 didn't count.
They lost to the Buccaneers. They lost to the Saints. They lost to the Broncos by a point. That was another one where they had it in the end zone. They lost to the Raiders by 5. They lost to the Dolphins by a touchdown. They beat the Jets. They lost to the Bills 27-17, but hung with them for a while in that game. Mm-hmm. They lost to the Patriots 45-0. That was completely unexplained. Like, I can't even explain that game. But then they go on and they win their last 4 games.
Right.
Like, they basically knocked the Raiders out of playoff contention. Mm-hmm. Took them right out. They avenged their loss to the Broncos. And they beat the Chiefs in a throwaway game. But they finished 7-9. Jeff Fisher is famous for going 7-9 and keeping his fucking job.
Right.
This guy brought his team to the playoffs, has a brand new quarterback during a pandemic, was in just about every game of the season. Nothing was a blowout except for that Patriots game. Every game they were in it. And they're like,
Well, I think it boils down to this. Los Angeles, particularly the Chargers, have never been really known for being brain surgeons on the higher up level, namely the Spanos family. This decision came from the Spanos themselves. Right. They have not been making very good decisions of late, and that is probably why more fans that go attend Chargers games of late are fans of the other team and not necessarily fans of the Chargers, because nobody gives a shit about the Chargers especially when they do things like this. Anthony Lynn, I think, was a great coach for them there, was building something, and I think next season, had he been there and the continuation of that system, they would have been a playoff team.
With Herbert as their quarterback.
Right.
Out of the gate, season under the belt. Mm-hmm. You can have camps this coming year. Like, it's going to be a different year, and they're just like...
I can't lie. And
they didn't quit.
I would happily, if none of these sexy new coordinators or, big name people come to the Jets, I would happily take Anthony Lynn, because I know players are going to play for him.
Dude, they were
with Adam Gase. It was something I was telling. I can't remember who I was telling this, but it was Art Bailey. I was telling Art Bailey on Facebook that, they never played for Adam Gase. They didn't care to. He wasn't well liked. Like when Todd Bowles was released, at least the community, the team, the players, the media, the community were sad about it, because he was a genuinely likable guy that just, it sucks it didn't work out kind of thing.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying that about Adam Gase. When Adam Gase was released, and there was a post on Instagram, I think it was on ESPN, there's a post on Instagram, LaMichael Perrine, the Jets running back, liked the post that announced that Adam Gase was fired. So,
but the thing is you can see what I was talking about that game. They were 3-9, and they had suffered such heartbreaking losses that would break the will of a team. And they went out there and they still won the last 4 games. Like, they still were competing. They were still trying, and they were still trying to win, and they were trying to get better. And they did. And I just could not fathom the fact that they pulled them. And you got Cliff Kingsbury down in Arizona. I mean, you guys were the talk of the town. You guys were like, oh, we're the Kings after that. I mean, they were talking about Kyler Murray being MVP after the Hail Murray. And then they go and they lose 5 out of 7. And their only wins were against the Giants and Eagles.
Yeah.
Like, and they're just like, oh, well, he gets to keep his job. He's on the hot seat. But I hear this hot seat shit, but I don't hear hot seat about a lot of these black coaches. Unless they're really terrible franchises like Cleveland and Cincinnati. Those are terrible franchises, and they make dumb decisions all the time. So that's why they got to keep their job. And I noticed we forgot one other thing that you were wanting me to rant on, but I'll just say it real quick. That was the controversy with Philadelphia pulling their quarterback, and how everyone's so upset at the Eagles and their 4-win team for pulling a guy who had completed 7 of 20 passes, who had just gotten the ball handed to him at the 15 and only could manage to get 10 yards, and then three bad passes on 2nd, 3rd, and 4th and goal from the 4-yard line. And everyone's like, oh, I cannot believe they disrespected the game this way. Nobody said dick weeks ago when they pulled Carson Wentz to put in Jalen Hurts against the Packers, and then you've got a backup quarterback going, and your franchise quarterback is not playing the next 2 weeks, but then you're like, that's okay. But then he gets pulled, and all of a sudden you've pulled Tom Brady from the game. It's not Tom Brady. It was fucking Hurts, who didn't do shit the whole game. And you're hearing this from a 6-10 football team's fan base, mad that a 4-win team went out there and didn't win. Like, Are you fucking kidding me? Oh, they pulled them. They weren't doing shit. They had not done shit since the second quarter early when Hurts got his second rushing touchdown, another short run, which, by the way, if you were like the week when they played against the Saints and he had that breakout game and he ran for almost like over 100 yards, he had 34 yards in rushing. So he barely got over 100 yards combined in 3+ quarters. And you're sitting here getting mad at Pedersen for saying, well, the season's over. Let me see what I got in Sudfeld. Like, we got to decide on a backup. This guy's not our backup, then maybe we got to draft somebody. I'm not saying that's what they did, but at the same time, like, who the fuck cares?
So
There's no integrity of the game they're protecting. They're not the gate. They don't owe the New York Giants and Philadelphia Eagles hate each other. They don't owe them anything.
Right.
As a matter of fact, they could have sat everybody and got blown out.
Right.
But they did play, and they tried to win that game. They didn't have enough.
No, I agree, and I'd heard all day about the integrity thing, and I'm kind of like,
fucking stupid.
I mean, yeah, players played it, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
did everyone cry in Miami about how Pittsburgh didn't start their starters against Cleveland? Because if Cleveland lost and Miami lost, Miami was in.
Right.
Cleveland was out. I don't hear that big discussion today about that. But what I do hear is from a 6-10 fucking team that thinks that they're entitled to a playoff position, a division championship they think they're entitled to.
Right.
And that the Eagles, of all teams, one of their bitter rivals, owes them a favor and owes the game of football. No, they don't owe them shit.
Yeah, no, I'm totally on board. I'm totally on board with you there. Real quick, Carson Wentz, where is he next year?
Not in Philadelphia.
No,
I
don't think he'll be in Philadelphia either.
Do you think he wants to stay there after that shit? I mean, they've left him out there to die.
Yeah, pretty much.
He has gotten destroyed this season. Like, his body got the shit kicked out of it.
Yeah.
And they've not done anything to address the offensive line. They've not done anything to get him any wide receivers. Like, they're terrible. Like, they went and won a Super Bowl, and then it was like they were like the Miami Marlins. Like, they just break away the franchise.
Yep.
And they're like, hey, Josh Beckett, you can pitch us all the way to the thing with nobody on your squad, right? So he's not going to be there. But before the week even happened, Pittsburgh and Buffalo had the same record. There is a chance that Buffalo could lose to Miami and Pittsburgh becomes the 2 seed. Pittsburgh decided to rest starters. They said 2-3 doesn't matter to us.
Right.
We're going to rest.
Well, with only one team getting the bye, you're not getting it. What's the point?
And they're playing against a team who was fighting for their playoff lives. And nobody said dick about them pulling Ben Roethlisberger. You don't see Miami Dolphins fans and Miami Dolphins players all butthurt saying, oh man, if the Steelers would have actually had Roethlisberger, they would have beat the Browns and we'd be in the playoffs today. Nobody's saying that. But for some reason, a lousy 6-10 football team that had their ass saved for them on multiple occasions during that game, including that last fumble, which the guy did a fucking Van Damme split on it, and they called that possession and recover his own fumble when the Cowboys came out of the pile with it and damn near could have gone and won the game. You're going to sit here and cry about the Eagles and not respecting the integrity of the game?
Right.
Like, the fact that you think that you are a good enough team to be in the postseason to begin with, and you're entitled to that spot, and you're entitled to a division rival helping you out to get into that playoff spot, it's the most laughable fucking thing. It is the most 2020 thing, and we're in 2021. Like, it is like participation trophy at the highest level.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Giants fans, you should feel ashamed of yourself.
6-10.
Yes.
You did not deserve to be even in the hunt.
Yeah.
You realize that if you got in, you would be hosting 6-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady and the 11-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at a home game in that dump hole MetLife Stadium with no fucking fans there in the middle of winter, and you earned that because you played in a shit division?
All right. So I'm going to have to correct you on one part there. You said there, MetLife Stadium is not a dump hole.
It is a dump.
MetLife Stadium
It's in New Jersey.
It is actually a very, very nice stadium.
It's in New Jersey.
When it's colored in green.
Smells like
a very, very nice stadium. But we're going to leave it at that. We're going to leave it at that. We're going to put a bow on this podcast, wrap it up, put a bow on it. We are done. Thanks for tuning in to us here on the Listening Podcast or the Videocast. We appreciate you. Again, any one of our links on gearnetwork.com if you want to support us. Also, just listening to the commercials start to finish. That helps us out too. And again, ProWrestlingTees.com/Brody Lee for the late great John Huber. All proceeds go from those sales go to his family, and we would appreciate that very, very much. Brandon, it was a hell of a cast, man. We made we started with a very little bit and ended up with a 3-course meal, man. Great stuff today. Good job, sir.
Yeah, I was salty today, man.
Yeah, well, it's nice. Salty Grills is great. Hey, next time for next podcast next week, your homework assignment, the headlines, okay?
Yeah, I will have that.
All right, very good. Good day to you, sir.
Good day to you as well.
So long, everybody. Good night now. Flavor Flav, give a yeah, boy, for the Washington football team. Knocking the Giants out.
Yeah, boy!
Hang on, one more thing before you go. Remember, listen to our sponsors following this podcast, as that does help this podcast and this network out in a way that we appreciate very, very much. So if you could just ride it out 30 to 60 more seconds after this podcast is over, listen to those commercials, it would be doing us a very, very big solid. And again, we thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Gear Radio Network. For more, log on to gearnetwork.com.